son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have everybody in-house this week, and we have all your action for the Coke Zero 400 from Daytona International Speedway.
The Coke Zero 400 is a staple for any NASCAR fan excited to gather around the TV and watch a race. This is the ultimate race during the summer. This is pretty much the last wild card race as we head into the playoffs, and it's going to allow for guys like Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who got that win in Talladega. We have the same situation in store here at Daytona. So it's going to be pretty crazy as far as daily fantasy NASCAR goes. Lap 40, lap 80, and then they'll do battle to the finish at lap 160.
Interesting fact here is that out of the last 12 races at Daytona, the winners come from the top 10 8 out of 12 times. Ford has won 4 out of the last 6 races here at Daytona. Last time Dale won here, he went 1-1 back in 2015. And for just a little historical data here, in the 140 races in the history of Daytona, the winner has gone 1-1 27 out of 140 times, which is roughly about 20%.
Well, kids, we have a 60% chance of PM thunderstorms when we're supposed to go racing at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports. Remember, this is the week that we've got the transfer over from Fox Sports 1 to NBC Sports Network. And if tonight's race is any indication, we're going to expect rain delays, kid, because they're rain delayed out so bad they're wrestling around in the UFC ring in the infield. So, with that said, let's get into the picks with everybody here. It's time to burn some rubber.
Burn that rubber, Daytona, Dale, yeah, baby!
Dale, yeah.
Hey, why don't we go ahead and let Jamie kick off the Burning Rubber segment?
Yeah, I think we should go ahead and let Liehr kick off the Burning Rubber segment as well. Dale, yeah, go ahead and get it done, brother.
Really? You're going to go straight to me right after I yell my brains out like that?
Well, I mean, it's only fitting since you're already in Dale mode.
All right, I hear you. Well, who isn't in Dale mode? I mean, come on. The whole week is, you've seen it everywhere. It's just all about Dale, yeah, on his last hoorah at the Daytona International Speedway. It's a fun and exciting, feeling all in one. And then at the moments there, you get caught up in being like, well, man, this actually could be the last time that I get to see Dale Jr. Race here at Daytona. But, he takes on Daytona for the last time, obviously, in his career this weekend at the Coke Zero 400. So far this week, his car has been obviously one of the best and the fastest, leading the second practice as far as times, but also starting on the pole for tomorrow night's race. But everybody knows that this is just the type of racing that is Dale's specialty, as he has 4 career wins here at Daytona. He's got 6 at Talladega, which is also, the only other restrictor plate track that we have on the circuit. But there's just something special about Dale Jr. and restrictor plate racing. They just kind of go hand in hand. But the last time that he won, he started from the pole like we talked about, and he led 96 laps of that race. But the last 3 races here at Daytona, he finished 21st or worst, which is a little bit concerning with 2 crashes. This week his cost is $10,300, which is the second highest costing driver on DraftKings to Brad Keselowski, who's obviously one of the other really good restrictor plate drivers. But there's just something in the air, boys. Just some sort of nostalgia that's just never going to be replicated this week, as obviously we say goodbye to one of the most iconic last names in NASCAR history at one of the most famous tracks. Every time Junior has won a race here at Daytona, he's led at least 50 laps or more. So I look for him to be up front most of the race on Saturday night to earn those fastest laps and those laps led points. Obviously, we know as far as DraftKings purposes, the main guys you want to focus on this week are going to be the place differential guys. But just one main question still to ask. Will Dale Jr. win the Coke Zero 400?
That's all I could have in my head. All I had in my head while you were saying all of that. Like, basically Lear's arguing a destiny sort of pick here with him being on the pole. I don't know, A-Dub, I don't have any reason that I want to pay $10,300 for Dale Jr. and what I've seen that car do this year. Now, granted, he doesn't have to shift at all this race, which is a benefit and gets us there part of the way. He shouldn't blow an engine at least. But, man, as much as I want to play Dale, I mean, I'm wearing his hat. I hope to God he wins, but I don't know that I can sink any of my money behind Dale Jr. as much as off as he has been this entire season. Your thoughts, A-Dub?
I completely understand, and I can tell you one thing. If there's one guy that can go out here and win this race on Saturday night, I want it to be Dale Earnhardt Jr. I mean, this is my favorite driver as a kid growing up watching NASCAR, memories watching the sport. And I just remember, sitting down watching the race with my grandpa so many times, cheering for Dale Earnhardt Jr. And it is sad that this is going to be the last time we can do that at Daytona. But there's a little bit there to what Jamie's saying. I mean, this guy has shown the speed by qualifying on the pole. He was fastest in final practice. Daytona is all about speed, and if he has a fast car like that, he's going to try to keep it at the front. Front is exactly what he's going to have to do with him being on the pole. He's going to have to lead some laps. I think Dale Earnhardt Jr. can do this. He's proven to be one of the best drivers in the series, both of the lanes, and kind of keeping the runs from forming through the corners and down the straightaways. I think that he's really expensive. He's going to carry a super high ownership, and he has to lead a lot of laps and probably win the race to pay off. There's so many duplicate lineups that have Dale Earnhardt Jr. Not saying that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to be a factor at the end of this race. I just think you're wrong. I see what Jamie's saying. I think that for me, if I'm playing a limited exposure, I might not play Dale Earnhardt Jr. as much just because I know everyone else will have him, and the exposure I can get from if Dale has a problem is going to be higher. So I'll have some exposure to Dale Earnhardt Jr. I love the play. I think he'll be fast. I think he'll be a factor to win this car. I think he's the best driver for restrictor plates. It could be a storybook win. Who knows? But I definitely see where Jamie's coming from. It's definitely a guy I'm going to have some exposure on.
I'm just going to throw it out there, guys. This is not going to be the last time we see Dale Jr. race at Daytona. Right?
I figured that was going to be coming out.
No, I don't think so.
Well, dude, you're going to see him race in the Xfinity Series between 2 and 5 times a year. Plus, he's going to race the Daytona 500 every year, at least for the next 5 years, would be my guess.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Dude, he's already talking about racing Daytona next year and finding a ride and a sponsor that would work out for him to do it. Come on, man. Dale Jr. may run Daytona for the rest of his life. I think he's just sort of caught up in where Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards was, where they just don't want the
week in, week out.
Right, the strain of having to do this for a full year. I mean, heck, we know the strain of trying to put together the show, and we just do that once for an hour every week, right? All right.
You're right about that, brother.
All right, A-Dub, let's go back to you, man, and let you do your burning rubber pick, brother.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of play the opposite side of the coin that Jamie's playing here. I'm going to take Chase Elliott in the number 24 Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet as my burning rubber pick. Guy has the speed just as much as Dale Earnhardt Jr. does, and in my opinion, I think a Hendrick car has to dominate this race. Based on qualifying, having 3 out of the top 4 spots in qualifying, Chase Elliott, if Dale Earnhardt Jr., if you're looking at what you see the race vision being, if Dale Earnhardt Jr. is not going out there and dominating this race, I think it's going to be Chase Elliott. And late in the Daytona 500, before he ran out of gas, he was leading that race, and he knew how to get to the front. So, I mean, Chase is going to be less expensive. He's going to allow you to even your team out a little more. If he's going to be the dominator front, he's going to look to stay at the front. And I think that Chase has a great shot to actually get his first win this weekend. And how cool would it be to see an Elliott in victory lane at Daytona? Yeah. I think that this would be a story, just the storybook as Dale Earnhardt Jr., honestly. I really feel like Chase Elliott has a great shot this weekend. Show these guys that he's not too far behind Ryan Blaney and Austin Dillon and Ricky Stenhouse and these guys getting their first win, that he's ready to go into the chase and compete too.
I mean, how ironic would that be if that did happen? But, I mean, you just look at the history, though, of Daytona and the history of obviously Jeff Gordon, who raced the 24 here. I mean, that guy's got an absolute ton amount of wins here at Daytona. But it's been a long time, obviously. No, I definitely like Chase Elliott for sure. I'm going to have a little bit of exposure. I don't think as much as you probably have the affinity for him. But when it comes down to it, though, I mean, he did take a huge price cut, and he's back all the way down to a mid, $8,000 price range at $8,600. So, I like that. I think that I would just shoot for either or Earnhardt Elliott, one of the two possibly. Obviously, not both of them. I mean, you're committing fantasy NASCAR suicide if you go 1-2. But definitely more place differential guys. But yeah, I'll have exposure on Elliott for sure this week.
Yeah, and see, I probably won't. I get what you guys are talking about, wanting the lead cars with Elliott and Jr., but if I'm going to pick a Hendrick car, I'm picking Jimmy Johnson starting 12th, going for place differential. The problem is with your guys' philosophy is at this track, traditionally for fantasy purposes, the place differential guys outscore any of the guys in the top, like when they get there because of the wrecks. I'm more going on a place differential play, which transitions me well into my burning rubber. I'd rather pay up for the guys just a little bit lower that are starting way in the back. I've got Truex starting 25th, Larson starting 21st, Rowdy starting 16th, and I just mentioned Jimmy Johnson starting 12th. Heck, pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, play all 4 if you want. These are the best place differential guys, and place differential guys are what is required to take down GPPs at Daytona. Don't get caught up in the, this is what I'm trying to stress, is to not get caught up in the love for Dale Jr. Basically, I'm hedging my play this week 2 different ways. I don't think I'm going to play any Junior. Probably not going to play any Elliott either. And if Junior wins, yeah, I lit my money on fire, but I'm going to be ecstatic in real life, right? But if he doesn't win, then my lineup should be money, as I have with A-Dub, probably 50% of the field playing Junior this week. And if they're not, they're going to take Elliott on the outside. So, hey, your guys' thoughts on that? I know I kind of packed 3 guys in there, but I'm just sort of making, with you guys going after the top guys at the front row, I wanted to make a staunch advocacy for the place differential guys.
It's almost perfect because we're kind of giving the viewers 3 different ways to look at this race. We're giving the viewers the outlook that Jamie has. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to go out here, do what he's always done, dominate Daytona, and win the race. If Dale Earnhardt Jr. is not going to lead the race from the beginning, and maybe these cars get single file, maybe it'll be Chase Elliott, and you're saving $1,700 on the price that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is. But then you also have Sean's look at it, which is, I think, probably the best way to look at it. You know, hedging the exposure that everyone's going to have on Dale Earnhardt Jr., and you fill those spots in with these place differential guys, especially Larson and Truex. I love pairing those 2 guys together. There's something there. I think that Larson, Truex are the 2 best value. If they're expensive, they can still be value if they're starting far back in the field and they have the place differential on their side. These 2 guys have always been super fast at these restrictor plate tracks. Big Sean.
I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less, Poppa, without you having to make a decision down to 1 driver instead of picking a bunch of drivers. But Well, it always reminds me of you're going to the garage pick where you're like, my going to garage pick is everybody from here on down this direction.
I would like to point out that I was right on that one, by the way.
I just love giving you a hard time, brother. No, I mean, I definitely, those guys starting at that late position and being on such dynamic teams and the 1-2 in our overall point standings, how could you not, roll with those 2 guys? The crazy part, though, I mean, just a real quick snippet, though. Go back to last week at Sonoma. Who would have thought that we would have had one guy blow an engine in Truex and then Larson finish in the 20s? It was, crazy. But anyways, as far as Daytona, obviously,
especially after starting 1st and 3rd.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, obviously the place differential guys are going to be one guys that you want to focus on here this weekend. So I still think, even though they're kind of hidden in tall trees down there, I mean, when you're a fantasy player, though, you see those guys down there, you're like, oh, cha-ching, cha-ching, free square. But also, boys, this is Daytona. Anything rolls here. The only thing that I don't like is that you guys know my affection for Truex Jr. He's my favorite driver.
I actually haven't heard you ever mention his name.
Oh, really? But ironically, he's got 24 starts here, and he's got 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s in 24 starts, and 13 top 20s out of 24. So that means he's finished 20th or higher in almost 11 races at Daytona in 24 starts. So that's almost a 50% clip that he has finished 20th or higher. So, just, I don't know, Truex and restrictor plate racing kind of don't go hand in hand, but it is Daytona, and anything can happen, boys.
I get your argument, Liehr, but like 80% of the time in his past, he was in garbage rides that had no ability to compete. So
I hear your argument there. I don't discredit that at all. But.
But as you can see, once again, we want to spend up for people. So, A-Dub, who are we saving money on? We'll go back to the normal order.
We're really not saving too much money, if we're being honest. I'm going to take Matt Kenseth at 80. So if you average out, the regression of the mean, Chase Elliott being 8,600 and Matt Kenseth being 8,700 as my two picks, I think that it's okay that Matt's a little more expensive since Chase was a little cheaper. But I just think Matt Kenseth, these Toyotas actually haven't been that impressive in qualifying. Just out of all the Toyotas in qualifying, I believe. And they just were dominated by the Roush Yates cars and all the Chevrolet power at the front of the field in the final 12 round. But Matt Kenseth is one of those guys like Dale Earnhardt Jr. If he can get to the front, he knows how to block both of these lines, and he can keep the lead for a long time. I think it gives him the right amount of place differential. I think that Joe Gibbs Racing is going to get in victory lane this weekend. I think that if it's not Dale Earnhardt Jr. that wins this race, I think it has to be a Joe Gibbs Racing car work into this race because they have went in a dry spell all season long. So I think that Matt Kenseth is the guy who gets it done for Joe Gibbs Racing. I think he's their best restrictor plate driver. Busch, but I think he's a bit too aggressive to be holding that title. So I'm going to take Matt Kenseth in the 20 car. I think he's going to be one of the guys battling for the win at the end of this race.
Oh, I like that pick, A-Dub. It's definitely sneaky because, let's be honest here, people. Like, we have not had a good season at all from Matt Kenseth, and his name has been dirtied across the lines everywhere because he hasn't been that good of a racer and a fantasy player. I mean, just has not paid off whatsoever this year. And, last week, he's a free square, starting in last. So, but no, I definitely agree with you. I think he is one of those hidden gems when it comes to restrictor plate racing, because honestly, he's got a ton of experience here with 35, races. He has won it twice, and so yeah, I mean, he definitely could.
Daytona 500 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean. He's got 2 wins here at the Daytona International Speedway and 6 top 10. So, he does fairly well.
Yeah.
And he's at a good price. And he's in a good price this weekend. I don't know if he necessarily constitutes his, like we talked about before, his value, but I mean, definitely he's value this week because I think a lot of people are going to overlook or overstep that play.
Yeah, I think in general, people are going to overlook and not play the JGR cars, and I wouldn't be opposed to making JGR stacks even. They're all starting back with good place differential abilities, and if you look to practice one, as a pack, the Toyotas were actually faster than the Chevys. Now, the Toyotas decided not to run really a whole lot in practice two. Most of them didn't even run. So it's a question of what data do you want to look at, right? Like, we know the Hendricks cars are fast when they're out on the track by themselves, but that's not how Daytona works. People follow that trend of being all over the Hendrick cars. I love this play, even though Kenseth has been a pile of hot, wet garbage most of the year. I really like Hamlin too, and if you notice, guys, when we were talking about the 3 drivers I threw out, both A-Dub and Liehr decided to skip over Rowdy for the most part. I just think JGR is going to... I just think they're going to go overlooked for the most part because you're either going to focus on the guys up front and Team Hendrick, or you're going to focus on the extreme place differential, not the middle place differential guys, which is what most of JGR is. That's why I love this value play and have no problem if you want to play any or all of Team JGR this week.
Well, and here's the other crazy part too to kind of piggyback on top of that. But dude, out of the last handful of winners here, they've all started from that 5 to 10 spot. So, I mean, there's guys in there that, you get out of that realm of like a Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, who's last week's winner. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about all the JGR boys basically in the teens. You definitely have some great place differential there. And how in the heck are we still this far into the season? We're July 4th weekend, and JGR does not have a win yet.
It's so
exactly.
crazy.
It's not going to hold out much longer. I do want to say also that I love Joey Logano this weekend. His place differential isn't as exciting, But I really think that this guy is one of the most underrated restrictor plate drivers in the series. For Daytona 500 champion, he's won at Talladega a couple times. I just think that this guy's going to go overlooked as well. If you're playing a multiple lineups, I think you have to look at Joey Logano.
Or Penske.
I would agree with that statement.
The only reason I don't say Brad is just because of his price, but that doesn't mean he can't still go out there and perform.
No, I agree. He's overpriced. Liehr, who do you have for us value-wise, buddy?
Well, I'm going to be going with one of the guys that we don't get to see on a regular basis. And, all those of you out there, you know how this race works. I mean, you got to pick some dirty down, low punts to roll in your lineups this week to not only, one, get you a big place differential person when that big accident happens, but also, somebody that saves you a little bit of that coin, so that way you save some of it on your salary to separate yourselves from other teams. But I'll be going with number 7, Elliott Sadler. Obviously, Sadler's a crafty veteran who's a full-time racer at the Xfinity Series. But he does, specialty races from time to time on the Monster Cup Series, mostly on the restrictor plates. But Sadler has a ton of experience, and his family name is definitely synonymous with NASCAR, with him and his brothers. But, he's got 26 starts here. He's got 4 top 5s, 9 top 10s. He had a nice finish here in this past February at the Daytona 500, where he started 40th and finished 20th. And this week he's, a little bit higher costing than the average low punter, but he is $6,300. But he's starting 33rd. I just love the combination of experience, having starting in the latter part of the field, and he's still a semi, low costing driver. Mm-hmm. But hopefully at the end of the race, he's going to be dipping his marshmallow under the chocolate waterfall at Golden Corral.
Oh my God, I like that.
Last time I went to Golden Corral, it was not good for me or anyone else involved. Like, chocolate waterfalls or not, man, garbage.
Yeah, I do not eat at that place.
Talk about, speaking of the gut rot, geez. I was in real pain.
That's gut rot with germs.
that was really painful there for a while. Dude, Elliott Sadler in the Tommy Baldwin number 7. The guy just shows up at Daytona. I like his price tag. I think he's a little too high priced. But once again, I think that will decrease ownership and let the savvy players play a guy like Elliott Sadler, and most other people won't. Of the cheap cars, he's and the guys that don't primarily race on the circuit, he is my favorite option at $6,300.
So, Jamie, you're meaning to tell me that if Elliott Sadler goes out here and gets a top 10 on Saturday night, you're not going to take Jackson there for a free meal?
I'm not going to work.
No, if they get a top 10, kids eat free.
I'll save my money.
Save your free money.
Yeah.
But no, I love the Elliott Sadler play. It's definitely going to be a guy that I'm going to have in most of my lineups.
Wow, that was quick.
I mean, just to me, I know that's quick, but to me, it just makes absolute sense. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's a very crafty veteran, a guy that's been around for years and years and years. And he's raced this before, and he's raced with these guys before, but yet you get the experience at a discount price. It may not be the equipment that you want, but the biggest thing for him is just to make sure he stays on the lead lap and stays, in the back and keeps up with the draft, and he's just going to be all right. Just stay out of this stuff, and he'll be good.
This 7 team also only races 4 races a year.
Right.
So it's easier for them to prepare for and put their money into races like Daytona and Talladega. So it's also another reason to play them over one of these other underfunded teams who have to stretch their funds all season long.
Yeah.
I think you guys have set me up well for my play, and that is he's only $100 more expensive, and I would rather make that play every day of the week, is Ty Dillon. Look, you get a RCR car essentially for $6,400. That's $100 more than the Tommy Baldwin car in Elliott Sadler. He starts near the back in 34th. I feel like we've seen this movie before with Ty Dillon, right? He terrible qualifying, but has awesome RCR style equipment. Marches up through the field. At Talladega, he was running 3rd before he got into the wreck. Isn't that correct? He and Bubba Wallace are in by far the best equipment, starting 30th or worse. Any of the other cars in that range may not even finish the race, may not stay on the lead lap. And it won't be that they don't finish the race because of a wreck. It's because of their mechanical problems. And that's why I would play Sadler. My gut tells me to pay the extra 100, play Ty, or to pay for Bubba. Those are the guys I'm liking in that value range. Colwitt's another one that I like down there, but The rest of those
I like
names, guys, are names you do not want to be a part of.
Those are great options to look at. I like David Reagan down there starting 30th as well. So there's actually a lot of guys down the board that you can really look to and see that they're in a little bit better equipment than where they're starting. Ty Dillon's going to be racing in the Xfinity race whenever they end up racing it. They just postponed it, so they're going to race, whether it be Saturday or Sunday, we'll see. But Ty Dillon's going to move up through this field, and I think that this is going to be one of the must-have place differential plays. Pretty high because most people should be able to see that Ty Dillon is in an RCR satellite team. So it's just a guy that I don't see a problem playing Elliott Sadler and Ty Dillon. Mm-hmm. And that way you can pony up and play some more of the big guys.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can't argue with your art, with what you stated, Poppa. I mean, it makes total absolute sense. $100 more and, one spot difference. I mean, it's same, but you're getting a lot better equipment and a guy that's been doing it week in, week out with the big boys. But yeah, no, I could double up on that all day.
Yeah, I appreciate you setting me up with that argument, and I appreciate A-Dub pointing out that it's to play both of them and spend on studs. Like, it's not hard to do. That's actually what one of my first lineups did. All right, guys, it's time to send some people to the garage. Now, because it's Daytona, we were going to just bypass this segment because the big one's going to happen, and that'll take out roughly a quarter to half the field. And we weren't going to give you one, but then somebody went and qualified in the top 10, and that somebody has no business being in the top 10, and all three of us are going to unanimously agree to send Danica to the garage. I think it's fairly safe. Do you guys have anything to add with that, or anybody else that you just don't want to play this week?
UFC on the TV instead of NASCAR right now. I think it's only fair that we make the unanimous decision to send Danica. And also, just to play it safe, let's just go ahead and send positions 1 through 9 or however many short of 40 we are this week to the garage, because anyone can go to the garage this week.
Liehr?
I'm sorry, honey, but it ain't happening this week. You're going to be you're definitely going to be going to the back of the field. I wish I could say that I was going to be playing you at probably your last Daytona race. But
I don't think Danica's going to lose her job.
No, I think she's retiring.
I'm just saying she's going to say, "See you later. I'm gonna do something else."
You think she's just going to go do her clothing line and bake cookies for Ricky when he gets home from the race weekend?
Dude, she's got her brand is set. Like she has nothing left to do. She's raced with the big boys for 7 years. She's proven the fact that
and still hasn't won.
Still hasn't won, but still proven that she can hang with them.
I think that. What do you think the dynamic of Ricky and Danica's relationship is? Because this is the point in our show. We have this segment every week where we talk about Ricky and Danica's relationship. Do you think that if Danica ever lost her ride or lost her sponsorship, that she would just make Ricky give her his car?
Well, I don't think it would go that far, but I do think that Ricky probably had a pretty good week at home because she was the reason that he didn't finish very well last weekend. So I'm assuming she probably made it worth his while be at home this weekend or this week. All I know is that she's really high when it comes to starting position. But, you never know, boys. It's Daytona. Could she stay up there? I don't know.
No.
But I'm like 95% no, there's no way she's going to stay up there at all.
Fair enough.
And she's going to be in the carnage because she's in the carnage every week.
The magnet to the carnage. I have it as like a 99.9% chance that she doesn't stay up there, but that's just that's my.
What's your percentage that she finishes the race? That she finishes?
Oh, she might finish
1%.
Probably 50%. I think 50% she finishes the race, but it's just gonna be behind the 10 spot that she's in. I really think it's interesting that you guys went in a TMZ sort of breakdown of Danica and Stenhouse's relationship there. For all the gossip, guys, remember to tune in to the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR show.
We're going to start having a graphic for whenever we get to that segment on the show, and it'll just be Sean will just be quiet, and me and Jamie will just talk about what we think the status of Ricky and Danica's relationship is. And when you have something happen like last weekend on the track, we've been here for a couple weeks, if Ricky and Danica run into each other on the track, tune in because you know that me and Jamie's segment's going to get good.
We'll talk about Stanica for a long time.
Yeah, we're going to just call it the Stenica segment.
Welcome to the segment of the show, guys, where we put together a lineup. This week we're going to enter it in, as Liehr suggested, the firecracker, $50K to first. It's a $9 contest. It is a ginormous lottery. So you definitely don't want to copy this lineup. You want to make a variation. Remember, the purpose of this is to show you the proper process of creating a lineup with 3 different heads that play Fantasy NASCAR. A-Dub, where do you want us to start this week, man?
Can we start off the team with, so Cars 3 just came out. It's a great movie. You guys should go see it. Well, can we put our team and just have all the NASCAR drivers that were in Cars 3? So we'll go ahead and put Bubba Wheelhouse on the team, Todd Laney on the team. We'll put Daniel Suarez on the team, and we'll round it out with Chase Bracelock. What do you guys think?
Nice shout out to Cars 3, but yes. Give me a real driver, brother.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to have to say I want to start this team out with Matt Kenseth. I really like that pick.
Wow. All right, we will start it off with Matt Kenseth at 8,700. Liehr, where do you want to go, bud?
So here's my qualm that I want to say Dale, but I actually, agree with you. But I mean, I'm torn because I really think he's going to do it this weekend. But the other thing is telling me, well, he's going to have huge ownership percentage and he's going to wreck, and that's going to take out 50% of lineups and tournaments and stuff. So I'm actually gonna go with Poppa, on this one because to me it's one of those where I think place differentials are going to be just that huge, and I'm going to say go with Kyle Larson.
Nice, wow. I love that pick.
I do too. That's why I mentioned him. I see no reason to not think that Truex is going to march through the field too. Even if you don't have him winning the race, I see that as a top 5 car. I'm going to go ahead and roster him on for us, which puts us at 7,466 with 3 drivers remaining. A-Dub, where do you want to go, bud?
That puts us in a bit of a tight spot, and we could go up and spend a little bit of money, or we could obviously try to save a little bit. I think that I really do like the Ty Dillon play. I think that he's going to have plenty of mileage at Daytona this weekend to give him the experience in the draft that he's going to need. Even though he's an underfunded team. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take the 13 in the Geico military car. I think we should put him on the team.
Nice. Ty Dillon it is. Liehr, where do you want to go, bud?
Let's just roll it up like we did in the show, brother, and let's put it in number 7.
Put in Elliott Sadler next to him, and that leaves me 9,700 to play around with, which gives me every driver on the board but Hamlin, Logano, Jr., and Kez. I'm going to, you guys are all looking at me like I'm going to straight pick Rowdy, which I probably should. It's, for me, like I said, it's either Rowdy, Harvick, or Jimmy Johnson that you'd want to finish this lineup out with for place differential and a chance to win. I'm going to pick Rowdy out of the group. I think he's going to be under-owned this week, way under-owned. And that gives us sort of like a JGR play with 2 JGR cars and place differential. I really like that lineup, guys. Kenseth, Larson, Truex Jr., Dillon, Sadler, and Rowdy. You guys cool with that?
Hey, man, it's a lineup.
I'll probably have
it. It's a lineup. Oh, where you get to when you've played as much as Liehr and I have. It's a lineup.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps up the show for this week. Go ahead and say your goodbyes. A-Dub, since you haven't been here for a couple weeks, say your goodbyes, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone watching. We really appreciate your support, even though we all couldn't be here throughout these past couple weeks. I do want to thank Pierce Diedrich for filling in for us last weekend. He did a great job. I watched the show, and it seemed to get a lot of good feedback from you guys that, want to see more of Pierce. And he actually has his own channel. We'll try to put it in the description to, let everyone know that he's just like we are. But we really appreciate your support. Have fun watching the race with your friends and family at Daytona this weekend. And go Dale.
Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Also want to just reiterate what A-Dub said, but thanks to Pierce D for filling in, man. Love the show last week. You guys did an awesome job, you and Big Poppa. It was a great show. Just wish I could have had a little bit more success at Sonoma. But had the little guy's birthday. It was fun. Looking forward to spending some time with the family this week and this weekend for the holiday. Happy 4th of July to everybody. Be safe out there. Don't lose any fingers or eyes, please. Hopefully Saturday night you got plans to watch the race outside, in your lawn chair, couple adult beverages, and just enjoying the nice summer night watching a Daytona race. And hopefully your fantasy NASCAR team is taking it all down.
I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank Pierce again for joining us last week for filling in for these guys when they couldn't make it. I want to thank the boys for being back and having a full show for Daytona. Hopefully we can light things up and win some money this week. I hope it doesn't crash and burn like it did last week. That was awful. But with with that said, guys, let's have a great week. Let's win some money, and thanks for watching. Go Dale, win it, even though that'll cost me everything in fantasy this week.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Hell yeah! Let's get it done, Dale.
I think that was a Dale Yeah from Liehr. So,
Hell yeah.
Peace out, guys.